Hey, peace and justice. And this is your man, Muhammad, with the Hard Talk with Jakim. Listen, we've got a great show for you tonight. Tonight's show, we really going to talk to some justice leaders and advocates about justice in the United States. Now, I'm coming from you from Delaware. You know, it's your Brooklyn boy coming from you from the great state of Delaware. But we also got Louisiana in the house. We got Georgia in the house. We're going to be talking about, because when you're black folk, you're from every community. Doesn't matter what community you're from. Y'all dealing with the same thing. Doesn't matter if you're from Harlem, or it doesn't matter if you're from Crenshaw. You're dealing with the same thing. So we've got Sister Dr. Zena Crenshaw-Logal. That's why I said the Crenshaw.
There you go. My folks.
Belinda Parker Brown. And first up, I would like to welcome you to the Hard Talk with Jakim, because we're going to talk some real stuff tonight. Ladies, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here tonight with you, Jakim.
All right. So we're going to go with the first thing that I wanted to do is to Dr. Zena. You don't mind me calling you Dr. Zena, do you?
No, not at all.
All right, Dr. Zena, give them your credentials, man. Let them have your bona fides.
Oh, well, I wear so many hats, and I'm going to talk about them because it's going to come into bear. And at the end of the day, you're going to see how me and Miss Belinda Parker Brown are actually connected very much as advocates. But I'm the executive director of the Law Project, which is a good government advocate that's focused in on the U.S. legal system. And so we team up with a lot of subject matter experts, and which is going to be a big part of the reason how I end up working with Miss Belinda Parker Brown. But the Law Project is a unique combination because we focus on public policy, we focus in on institutional reform, but we also do community organizing and community mobilizing. And that's unusual. Most times a group, it's hard enough to do any of those things. And so we combine them all. But we weren't nearly as effective at community organizing and community mobilizing as Louisiana United International. And that's how I connected with Ms. Belinda Parker Brown, who is like a community organizer, community mobilizer extraordinaire. It's usually her doing these interviews while I'm in the background typing up, our policy statements and getting it all documented. So I am assistant Chief of Operations for Louisiana United International. I'd started all of this stuff full-time in 1998. Before then, I was a civil trial attorney. I'm a human rights defender, chairman of the Human Rights Committee for the United Nations Association, Council of Organizations. I'm a member of the Nation Swell Leadership Council. I think that about covers most of what we need to hear tonight. That's what's relevant. Thank you for having me, Jakim.
I love the bona fides. That's absolutely right. So I told you that we've got a lot of people who have been in the criminal justice system, including myself, 21 years of law enforcement. But let me just say this. Brother Jakim calls it the criminal system. I take the justice out of it. So right now, we're going to get the bona fides for Sister Belinda Parker Brown. Give it to us, sister.
Well, good evening to all of our listening audience out there. And I am so honored to be a part of the Hard Talk show with you, Jakim. I am Belinda Parker Brown, the CEO and co-founder of Louisiana United International. We are a civil constitutional human rights organization. We focus on the corrupt criminal justice system. We work very hard to expose the corruption that when it comes to people being victimized by the system, weaponized by the system, and just any unlawful discrimination. We take it very personal when people are being done wrong. So, just a little bit about myself. I've been an activist practically all of my life. It's just in my DNA. My history of my family, we go way back. We have also, my husband, we have 7 children, 11 grandchildren. and they're all activists. Everybody in my house is an activist. Okay, we always protest. We take our own rally to the community, and whenever we want to protest, we bring our own mic, our own people, our own, everything to stand up for what's right. So we're very serious about, this type of movement, especially when it comes to people being done wrong.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Listen, I love that. Being a person from a big family, I have a big family up in Brooklyn, New York. So I love that. God bless you. I love that. Let me just get on it. So now we're going to get down to a little bit of the nitty gritty. And the one thing I wanted to ask you, Sister Zena, is now that you're in Georgia, mm-hmm. and you have it's called the Legal Project. Is
the
it
Law
called?
Project for sure?
The Law Project. Mm-hmm. What is the most things on misconduct that you see? Now we already know about all of this stuff that's going on right now. Mm-hmm. Tell me how you feel about that, and what do you see down there as far as official misconduct?
Well, I need you to understand the perspective that I'm addressing these issues from. The Law Project looks at national issues, national abuses of the legal system, every thing from the cop on the street to the highest court, the U.S. Supreme Court. And so with regard to criminal justice issues, we team up with subject matter experts. We look at how the U.S. legal system is failing us generally, regardless of the venue, whether it's family court, probate court, criminal justice. We do have an initiative that we spearhead. It's called Golden Badge. And we're actually advocates for law enforcement whistleblowers, truth tellers. So, and that's an essential part. We really cannot protect our communities from, persistent law enforcement misconduct unless we start embracing and helping to protect the law enforcement whistleblowers. So, with regard to our direct criminal justice system reform efforts and challenges of the corruption, we do that. That's when I put on my Louisiana United International hat. And then that's when we take that fight to the people that are doing people wrong.
Well, that is, I'm writing that down because mm-hmm. If you're watching Hard Talk right now, I want you to write down some of these things because these sisters are going to get deep into it, y'all. I want y'all to write down. We need to protect law enforcement whistleblowers. Now, and believe you me, working on Rikers Island, working in Queens House of Detention, or in the QBC systems, the central booking systems in New York City, most people that came to where I worked at knew that you better do it by the book in Brother Muhammad, because Brother Muhammad gonna testify in open court against your dumb, because I ain't trying to get no charge. Mm-hmm. This is what we need. We need to protect those police officers who are whistleblowers. And what do you feel about that, Belinda?
Absolutely. We have to begin to realize that that if we're not protecting those individuals that can help us make a difference and bring about the real change that people need to see, then they're not going to be able to help us in the information that we need in order to expose this type of injustice and corruption that's going on. And I want to say, when we have situations like here in Louisiana, we always use the what if. What if, your son received life in prison for a crime that he did not commit? Mm-hmm. And it was covered up by police officers. We got a case here in Louisiana. We called it the Houdini case. Mm-hmm. The young man was 22 years old and he was shot, handcuffed in the back of the police car. And, so what if, you were told that your son committed suicide in the back of a police car handcuffed? Somebody saw that.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be a police officer that was willing to blow the whistle on what he saw. But at the same time, you already know that that was almost like a death sentence to him because, you know, he got to turn the tables on his allies. So, you know, we just had a police officer just recently committed suicide here in Monroe, Louisiana, because it made national news because he said that he just couldn't take it anymore. You know, he didn't know where to turn, who to talk to, who he can trust. So he killed himself.
Yes. You know, I just seen on Facebook, one of our viewers just asked a good question. Do you have support from Noble and organizations of Black law enforcement? Let me answer that for you, for your sisters. Noble and these Black organizations, don't get me wrong, they are intended to be good forces for good. The problem is that in Noble, and I'm talking from my own experience and from my father. My father was a deputy warden in New York City Department of Correction. And as a law enforcement manager, to all y'all that's out there watching, they have to toe the line most of the time. They have to be on the side of the offenders most of the time because they don't want to have things happening. Here in Newcastle, I was just at a protest just less than 2 hours ago that we had a police chief who is Black. And what happens is, even with Noble, most of them are Negro managers instead of telling their people to speak up. Now, if you want to chime in, any one of your sisters want to chime in, you can chime in with that.
I just want to add, because I was working with one of the bigger law enforcement associations, and I was told point blank by as an attorney that, you know, they will stand up for embattled law enforcement officers only so far. But when we start talking about how the truth tellers were being persecuted by their own command, I was told specifically, well, you know, we got a lot of command in our membership, and they wouldn't really appreciate us addressing those policies. So that's what happens.
Yeah, Belinda, you're absolutely chime in again.
You know, you're absolutely right, and the sad thing about it is that you know the smoke screen. You know, they use people that look like us, that's been handpicked and paid to represent us, and they're not for us because they have to cater to a certain elite group of people. And that's the sad part about it, because now, you know, we're caught in the, you know, I guess in the trap, the madness, the method of, you know, madness, trying to figure out, you know, who's for us, you know, who's not for us, who's against us, and all of this kind of stuff, because it just happened here in Louisiana where our governor, he appointed the coroner, the superintendent for the state troopers police department. And this man was very adamant about doing his job. He was serious about doing his job. I mean, he even came out in the news and said that, you know, he's going to hold, you know, any police officer, you know, that, you know, accountable. You know, he's going to investigate, you know, he's going to do whatever, you know, it take in order for him to make sure that he's in control over his administration. Okay, so but we got these outside groups. I don't know if they're police association or they're the Mason or they're some type of mafia or whatever, but they come in and they put him in check. And they put him in check through something that's called the Louisiana Police Commission, where they got this board set up there, and whatever they say is what go. And to me, it's a waste of taxpayers' money, okay, because it's a trap. It's a trap.
Listen.
You know, how can this man do his job? How can this professional, a colonel, do his job when he got other people telling him what he can and cannot do when it comes to him running his administration? You know, this is sad.
Well, I tell you, we have that same situation. And like I said, if you're in a Black community all over this country, it doesn't matter where your Black community is. Believe you me, you're going through the same things that we're going through. I was telling Sister Zena, I should not be fighting the same fight that my damn father and my grandfather fighting. This is ridiculous. And, I always like to use the hashtag, not another generation. And when we go to this particular point, and the issue about people being able to whistleblow on corruption. And we're not only talking about corruption in police department, we're talking about corruption in political things. Because remember, we've got a lot of Negro managers that are in our political elite, and their so-called Black caucus or whatever hasn't done anything to address those particular things. And I really want to get back to that, but let me just go back to Belinda. I want you to talk a little bit more about the Louisiana organization you're with.
Yes, we're a very powerful organization that I am very proud of to have Dr. Zena Crenshaw-Logal as our assistant chief of operation. It's one thing to be boots on the ground down in the trenches, but it's another thing to be able to beat these people with what my grandmother always told me, one of the two most powerful tools in the world, and that is pencil and paper. And I'm here to tell you, when we put it out there, and she, if whether it be launching a campaign against predatory policing or else, writing letters to the governor, and with the situation of the COVID-19 inside of the prison population, and basically holding the governor's feet to the fire to let him know that he is obliged to do what's right. And when it comes to, evacuating or ordering a controlled evacuation to release people so that they can follow the CDC guidelines. So, all of that has to be put together in a way where, we can have people sign petitions on our website. It's so, powerful when we all come together and unite on these type of issues. That's been one of the major things that our organization do. But mostly importantly is that, we love it when we can put people in jail and they can envision themselves in a jumpsuit because they've been exposed for, any type of, illegal activity when it comes to political people that we have voted to put in these powerful positions to protect and serve us or to represent us in their office. And they get in there and all of a sudden they forget that they're there to work for the people. Okay, we have been
Sister Belinda, we all know.
Indicted, convicted, and put in jail. The sheriff indicted and convicted and on his way to jail. And the coroner, the three most powerful people in our community, we have literally put them out of office and put them in jail.
But Sister Belinda, let me just say this, and this is directed for you, Sister Zena. Let me just say this: the whole game is that they were never working for you. They were never. We in Delaware, we have a Black caucus, and I have been saying for a while, I don't call them the Black caucus, the Delaware Black caucus. I usually call them the Delaware Black cowards because they never was working for us. And just to go back to your thing, and Sister Zena, I want you to comment on this. We had the same thing here. Our governor here in Delaware put together a police task force to talk about policing in the communities. And the first thing he did was put a representative who was a former cop in charge as the chairman. And I made it a point. And this was last year. This was actually 2019. And I made it a point. I was one of the only voices out there that says, stop putting cops on policing task force, because this is what the community should be doing. I was a law enforcement. I don't even want you to put me on it because I may have been corrupted. I want you to put somebody else who's going to say, listen, this is what we want. So this is the game that they always play. They put cops on boards, they can advise, but they never should have a vote on the chair. And what happened just last week, 2 of the members of it said that task force was phony baloney. And Sister Zena, I know you've seen that before.
Oh yeah, and I'm going to take it a notch further, because we went to the United Nations a couple of years back, and we were of the mind frame that in the United States the United States does not effectively protect its citizens from abuses of power under color of law. And we talk about corruption, and we talk about, people committing crimes. It wasn't any cloak and dagger evidence that we presented to prove that there were not effective avenues of redress when you were alleging corruption of the legal system, that it was weaponized against you, that the cops, the prosecutor, the public defender, your private attorney, the judge, are all, on the same team and having their way with you, no matter what they're trying to accomplish. We didn't give a lot of evidence of bribery. We pointed out a lot of objective criteria, and one of them was that when it's time to look at the legal system and whether it's functioning properly, they never put private citizens on these boards who have a history of responsibly and competently being critical of the system. They get there, if they do put any private citizens as their little blue ribbon handpicked businessman who, gonna do whatever he have to do to keep the contract, and then they stack it with the lawyers, the judges, the same people who, the same people who are running the system, they're going to evaluate the system. And it was that type of evidence that helped the United Nations come to the conclusion that we don't have nothing coming here in the United States when you're complaining that the legal system is weaponized against you.
And I just want to say that this is what they do. How are you going to have the fox guarding the hen house?
There you go.
No way. Yeah. And I've been saying
then they got us running around chasing the rabbit. Like, we really feel like we sitting on these boards, like you say, people get up and walk off. It's already been designed as a sabotage, the whole thing, and just basically, shut down whatever, whatever the process was intended to do, Yes. So, that's the kind of stuff that we're fed up with, Jakim. We're just not going to tolerate that through no Black Caucus, no type of legislation. We just
no Negro managers. No Negro managers.
Right.
The community is not looking for Negro managers. The community is looking for action.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said, I should not have to be dealing with the same things my father dealt with, my grandfather dealt with, and his father dealt with. And we should not be looking to deal with that. Now, I know a lot of people may say, they love to say it for Jakim in Delaware. You remember you used to hear that from your older generations? That person's militant. Nobody says that anymore. Mm-hmm. But the older generation still got it. We need them to come and unlearn that too. We need them to unlearn that being in a situation where you can't fight City Hall. And you don't know how many older Black folks I have been teaching throughout the years to get away from that. Yeah. I used to get it all the time that my grandfathers or one of them would say, they ain't fixing our streets over here. But he ain't never wrote a letter. He ain't never, because he wanted to just walk this.
You just don't know. You talking my talk with that. Me and my husband both, we are ordained elders, and we want to say Second Baptist, church.
God bless you.
It's so real what you're talking about, because I was called to the, how you get called in on the carpet. Well, not on the carpet, but into the office in the back room. And and these are the exact words that I was told by my bishop, that, you need to tone it down. And I hope he's listening. Okay.
Oh, Lord.
He said,
Bishop said that.
He said, Belinda, every time I look around, it was either him or his wife. One of them said it. Every time I look around, it's you. You need to tone it down. And I looked at him, I say, Bishop, I say, if I was to tone it down, we'll still have a corrupt district attorney that is maliciously prosecuting black men and putting them in giving them life in prison for crimes they didn't even commit. I said, if I was to tone it down, we'll still be 400 years back dealing with the same stuff that we've been dealing with all of our life. I say, oh no. I say, if that's the case, then, we all just might as well sit down and hang it up. Don't preach the gospel, don't do nothing.
Well, let me just say this. I'm gonna get right back to you, Sister Zena. And you're absolutely right, Belinda. We're gonna have we're gonna have a Black Nation discussion on the Hard Talk. People have been talking to me about it. They want to have it, and I would love for both of y'all to be on the panel. But those types of old Negro type thinking has got to get out of here. This is 2021. Yeah. We have got to stop with that. And Sister Latoya, my sister Tony just said from Delaware, she said, amen, sister. She gave you a big old amen over there. And Brother Maurice Mars, let me just say this about Black commanders and Black officers. You're absolutely right. We talked about NABCJ, National Association of Blacks in Criminal Justice. I'm going to have Zena talk about that one real quick. But yes, there has to be an accountability. Now, I'm from the old school that says, I'm not going to attack you personally unless you attack in the Black family. Yeah. Let me just say this. Unless you attack in the Black family, you're not going to hear me attack you personally. I attack policies. I attack ideas. I attack laws. I don't attack personally. Yeah. But if you are against the Black family, you're going to hear from me. I'm going to co-cock you. And I'm going to give it to you. Yes, you're absolutely right. Now, the National Association of Blacks in Criminal Justice, have you ever dealt with them, Doctor?
Not that group in particular, but when I first I want to say, when you said you're going to get back to me, when you wanted me to be on this show, I said, okay, we need to bring Miss Belinda Parker Brown because, getting back to me, this woman is fearless. She's brilliant. Yes. And she articulates the issues, and I am content to listen to her and follow her leadership.
But that's what we got to do.
and like I say, I'll be back in the background and I'll draw up y'all's position papers and I say, now hand this to them. But anyway, with regard to when I first started challenging the system myself, it was about how they were responding to the Black lawyers in our community just outside Chicago. And I went to, the national Black groups, and they just was shy away from those issues. I mean, they had a big protest, I remember, statewide, because they had the definition of the N-word in the dictionary, and they said it was a Black person. And they mobilized the NAACP, the National Black Association, and stuff, just outraged that they had the N-word, the definition was a Black person. I said, and I was like, okay, so they can treat us like the N-word, but just don't call us that. That's the problem, because when we tried to challenge the way they were treating Black lawyers, and which had an effect on the ability of the Black community to protect their civil and their constitutional, don't even mention human rights. They all said, shh, I couldn't get return phone calls. So I generally when you start putting national and Black, I started raising an eyebrow and looking at exactly, who's setting the agenda here.
And you're absolutely right. I'm going to give this one back to Belinda, and I see that my man Willie Vargas is joining. What's up, brother Willie Vargas? Big shout out to you. The other thing that's part of that is we've had on the Hard Talk before conversations about false allies, false allies to our community, and that has been one of the tactics that they use or techniques that they use that they give you a lot of these false allies. Now, I'm not saying anything new. Our brothers and sisters from the 40s, 30s, 50s, 60s has been saying that. The problem is that we need to be able to communicate and say, you know what? That person is not for us. And it's not about me hating a black man. It's not about me hating a black woman. It doesn't even matter about what title or position. It's that I'm attacking their policies, their positions, their philosophies, and their laws. Because we all know that the law has been notoriously been used to oppress and weaponize against black people all around the world.
Yes.
And if you're going to say that it has not been, and that you are that we need to tone it down, we will go and 60, 70 years we'd be dealing with the same crap that we're dealing with right now. We at some point you got to say enough is enough.
Exactly.
Absolutely. You know, again, thank you so much, Jakim, for allowing us to be on your show. I'm really enjoying your presence and this hard talk that we have and that we must have. And because, we're not, as a people, it come a time when we have to declare that that we must declare. Listen to me. I'm talking to the audience now, that we must declare that, we're not just going to take this no more. And that we're not, and mean it. And mean it. Because they are playing with our intelligence now. It's not that the people don't know, because if we're watching everything that's going on in the world right now, just to think about the George Floyd trial right now. And
or Dante Wright.
And we didn't we're at the point where we're fed up with this type of treatment. It's not because we don't know, but we got one thing that we have to do this now, Jakim, is stop whining and crying about what they doing.
That's right.
It's not about what they're going to do. It's about what we're going to do. And we got to be fed up that we know the truth. We know the truth. We're not going to fall for the okie doke. We're not going to run around the mulberry bush. We're not going to chase the rabbit. We're not going to all the same place in the wrong place. Okay,
you can't put
what you've been doing.
You can't put the banana in the tailpipe anymore and think we're gonna fall for it.
Right. But can I say this though? Because I'm very concerned about the narrative that gets shaped. Even with regard to all this, the violence that we see on the part of law enforcement in the Black and brown community, and the George Floyds and now the Dante Wrights, and the media has us now focused on the individual officer. And they're turning out. So we satisfied to get somebody indicted, get somebody fired, and all that should happen. But we're not looking at the system and the policy that the systemic problems that really are the bigger cause of those tragedies than what any individual is doing there on the scene. Now, one of the biggest things is the fact that our communities are over surveilled. If they are over police, if I put all my resources on monitoring your household, then I allow the narrative to get created that Miss Belinda's household, there's no criminal activity, there's no problem there, because I'm putting all my attention, sending all my people, and they incompetent, they racist, they negligent, they stupid. I'm sending all that to the Black community, and then when it explodes with somebody grabbing a gun and shooting you, talking about they thought it was a taser, then they get us all focused in on fire her, indict her. And I'm not saying that personal, that there shouldn't be that type of accountability, but we need to recognize who hired her.
How did she get on? Right.
Has any law enforcement whistleblowers tried to expose her incompetence beforehand or her violence? A lot of times, I'm gonna end it with this. With George Floyd, if those officers who are charged with assisting him, being his accomplice in Chauvin, being his accomplice in killing George Floyd, if they had stopped Chauvin and stopped them from killing George Floyd and got lost their job, face the prospect of getting killed from friendly fire, that happens.
Yes.
You can attest to that. They will
Sure.
get those. If you whistleblow against, I know people personally in this situation. You whistleblow, and they have you on a stakeout chasing a violent felon, and you look back and everybody left you. And I've known the people who have gotten killed from the officer from behind after they've exposed this type of misconduct. So when these people lose their job, when they have their life at risk, when their whole world is turned upside down, George Floyd is alive. Are we there for those officers? And
Yes,
and the answer is usually no.
no.
So we've got to not only have outcry with regard to the ones who are killing us, we also have to stand up again for the ones who are willing to say no and not participate.
I agree with you, sister. And the whistleblower thing in law enforcement is a big thing. We just found out today that a whistleblower from 2008 who stopped a police officer in Buffalo, New York,
yes,
another police officer, she just won an award when she had to go through all of that stuff for doing the right thing. That is big in our community.
Exactly. And so I'm not so much trying to change the subject back to the whistleblower. I'm just trying to point out that that's the banana in the tailpipe when they get us focused on these individuals and hating because some stupid law enforcement officer or some racist law enforcement officer and so we just focus on that individual and seeing a solution as getting rid of that individual as opposed to entire policies and practices of law enforcement in this country that's geared to fill up prisons with people of color, and if necessary, fill up the morgues. That's the point I'm trying to make.
You make a great point, a fantastic point. Big shout out to Brother Coyote Abagunde. I have to put on my African tongue. I love saying his name. Coyote Abagunde, big shout out to you. Big shout out to Willie Vargas, and big shout out to Maurice Morris. You know, Maurice, you actually, I'm looking at his thread here, and he said the hard part is getting everyone to unite as one, as people to literally stand up and fight. Well, you know, that was once a hard part. Thank you, COVID. If COVID has done one thing, is that now Jakim is ready to talk to a young lady in Georgia named Dr. Zena and a young lady in Louisiana with Belinda. Let me tell you something. We didn't have this connectivity.
Right.
If we wasn't watching News One when Roland Martin was on or this one was on, those, and you know, and let me just say this, and I got to say this to my man, Willie Vargas. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Just because they're black commentators on MSNBC or CNN don't mean they did a damn thing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna leave it there. All right, that's for you, Willie.
And I want to add, you also got into this connection that Maurice Morris you mentioned a couple of times. He's a national spokesperson and a national membership recruiter for Golden Badge, which we help administer. I help administer, and also part of the coalition with Louisiana United International fighting predatory policing.
Oh, thank you. And let me just say this. I was remiss, and somebody just brought this into me. My sister Tony from CBTU, Coalition of Black Trade Unionists, is on with us tonight. My sister Tony, I love you a lot. She's right here in Delaware, and she's the other one that's putting in. Thank you, Mr. Morris, Coyote, but I'm going to say this again. We stepped on a little bit, Belinda, and again, what I'm going to say is that I love the idea of the NAACP. I love the idea of the Urban League. The problem is, and we're talking about locally, and mostly not nationally, but locally, because there's some chapters that are doing it right, and then there's some chapters that are doing it wrong. The problem is that they get funding from these false allies. They get funding from these people, and then they don't step out to do. Like I told you, we just had a rally for a young man that was killed by the police here in Newcastle County, Delaware. And it was killed by the Newcastle County, Delaware police in the city of Wilmington when Wilmington has its own police. In fact, they was even out of their sector. Do you dig what I'm saying? And not one of those organizations came to the rally. They saw the police footage, which was released by the county exec. By them, the young man was killed. In fact, I'm going to say his name, Lamont Moses. He was killed in January of this year. And it took a lot of people just for them to release the dashboard cameras. Here's my point. You get those organizations that are supposed to be for Black folks. And listen, I'm not just talking about organizations like NAACP or Urban League. I'm also talking about political organizations. I'm also talking about sororities, fraternities, whatever group you're in. My question that I had today, and this is my question for everybody who's watching, who are we outside of these groups? Belinda, who are we?
First of all, I like to say, shout out to the Hard Talk with Jakim. Shout out to the Hard Talk with Jakim. You're talking hard when you start talking about, these, NAACPs and all of these other letters that we can name, that been here for over 100 years. Okay. And I mean over 100 years.
That is correct.
And we're still dealing with the same atrocities that we dealt with all the way back with our ancestors. Mm-hmm. It's a crying shame. Okay. So I just want to say that because, of the fact that, right now when we look at some of these other groups like the Black Lives Matter, that just got, to the tune of $90 million or maybe even more, they're getting all these. And I'm saying this because, I got an attitude about the fact that when I got people, all on an all volunteer basis that is, putting out the product that are representing the people to the fullest. Okay. And we're not getting a dime. Okay, but when we go to organizations and call on them for support or call on them for help, they running around with their lips stuck on somebody's butt. I'm gonna say it just like that.
Hold it like it, baby. Hold it.
Okay. Well, see, and that go to the state president, the state president of the NAACP. Whoever they may be. You running around. You got to kiss up to somebody to do what's right when it comes to representing the people that families are being destroyed, people are suffering, okay, and being, kicked under the bus, and then they call on you. They literally almost got to file a lawsuit just to get you to answer your phone.
Well, can we get the conversation? Can we make the talk even harder?
Yes, ma'am.
It's hard. Let's make it hard.
The hard talk is direct talk.
Okay, we're gonna make it even harder because what I want to talk about is, and everything you all said is absolutely right. I don't detract from it, not one bit. It's about the money. But on the other hand, in our community, we've got to stop starving our leaders. We got to stop starving our activists. We've got to be willing to make our contributions of $25 a year or $10 a month, so that the authentic activists, are able to. It's about sustainability. It's not about getting me a Cadillac every year. It's about sustainability. And we've got to stop thinking that the people who have the nerve to say enough is enough and step up and form an organization and disrupt their life and sometimes put their life on the line for the benefit of not only themselves but the people. My husband used to say we had a really old car, and so it took $100 to fill it up, and he would say, the people that we're working for won't give us a full tank of gas. They won't donate a full tank of gas. Now that's the harder talk. We've got to realize that we've got to sustain our organizations so that they can stay true to the mission.
Let me tell you something. That is the direct talk that we need. That is the talk that, and I've been saying it for years. There's no reason why you should be poor because you're an activist. Exactly. And there's no reason why you should be buying $1.5 million and nobody got any money. So there has to be a middle ground. Listen, exactly. I know it and you know it. What was it that it was said that brother Malcolm X, El-Haj Malik Shabazz, when he died, he had $300 in his bank account. Mm-hmm. This was what was told to us. I don't know if it's true or not, but I know that a lot of people, you shouldn't have to go poor. And in this day and age, with Cash App, with Venmo, with all those things, if you know a brother and sister or anybody, they even got to be black. Listen to me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you right now, I have been so mad at the Black Caucus here in Delaware that I'm ready to go with the White Caucus. Maybe we'll get some goddamn things done. I don't know what the hell, but this is where I'm at. If you don't have
it's getting harder, I tell you.
Right. It's
getting real hard now.
You don't have to be, that's right. You don't have to be poor in order to be an activist. But there's got to be some middle ground. I know I'm supposed to be on.
And one of the most important things, I don't mean to interrupt you, but one of the most important things, we got to be able to identify, like Dr. Z said, who are our real leaders. Yes. There is a disgrace in our leadership now. It's getting very frustrating for a lot of people that feels like, our leaders have failed us. Okay. And I'm talking about leaders, whoever you may want to call yourself to be. If you have not, really, done your research to look out there to see who's are the real leaders. And then once you find out, do something about it. Do something about it. If you can't find a real leader in your community, then you need to rise up and become that leader. Start your own organization and then join up and network with other organizations that are, on the same page, right? Like-minded, so that's very important. Don't keep on, running, looking for help in all the wrong places, people. Yes. We got to stop that. That's one of the things that they're calling us insanity because when, I don't care what they call me because I know I'm the real deal. Okay. They better act somebody. And like Dr. Z said, they going to get enough of messing with people like us because we going to show them better than we can tell them. Okay.
Exactly. That is correct.
And that's a fact. Okay. But I really appreciate if you haven't donated to an organization like the Hard Talk Radio to keep this show, on the air and doing what you do, then I got a problem with that.
Yes.
Okay.
And we also, you're absolutely right. And I'm going to jump into that because the Hard Talk is going to be, we're doing some things. The people are loving it. They love what's going on. I get more of my detractors watch me more than people who should be watching me because they want to know what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And that's all right to this point. Well, I reminisce on Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X when they had their meeting. They came out the meeting and they said, what did y'all talk about in there? Well, Martin Luther King said, we talked about a lot of things. We're not willing to discuss it right now because that's another issue that we in the Black community got to understand on where to place our conversations. Some conversations aren't meant for everybody. Mm-hmm. Some conversations are meant to be here so that we can do our building because you can't tell everything for tactics. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. So we got to understand that. But let me just get back to this real quick. Everything we do in the Black community is built upon blood, sweat, and tears. A whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And when you're building an organization to change things in your community, and you go on to the so-called the mainstream organizations, and they haven't helped you, that is the time that the Lord must, and whether you believe in the Lord or not, is going to say, listen, you got to get it in now. I told people about running for office for political office. I told them about stuff like that, that it doesn't cost a lot. It may cost some things, but the one thing that we need is people to stand up for Black community. And I'm with sisters like y'all. I know we're in good things. I don't want to deflect, but let me just go real quick, little bit of house cleaning. The organization that you're with, Sister Belinda Parker Brown, I need you to tell them again.
Okay, we're with Louisiana United International here in the whole world know about Louisiana.
Oh yeah.
And, you can go to our website, www.unitedi.org. That's www.LA.
There you go.
LA stands for Louisiana United.org. That stands for Louisiana United International. And I also, you can like us on Facebook at Louisiana United International. You can also, tweet us at A Force for Justice. And we have Instagram. I think that's at A Force for Justice. You can also call me at 985-503-0626. That's 985-503-0626. We have another number too, Dr. Z. You want to give that out, and our email address?
Okay, 985-244-6465. And our email address is info@launitedi.org.
launitedi.org.
Don't forget the I.
Got to put that I in there. Yes. So again, what we wanted to do is make sure that all the people that's out there, and again, thank you again, Mr. Maurice Morris. You're absolutely right about the step and fetching. I'm looking at your comments. You're absolutely right about the step and fetching, and it hasn't changed. That's the thing that's killing me, that it hasn't changed. It's not going to change unless we start getting out there. Now, as far as putting money in the pockets, money doesn't corrupt everybody.
No.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's because I was on somebody else's show and they wanted to talk about Tamika Mallory doing a Cadillac commercial. And I put my two cents in it. Basically, I saw the commercial. It was done tastefully, but because Cadillac has such a history in our Black community of wasteful money, and when they didn't want us to have Cadillacs after the 1940s because it was going to bring their brand down, so they didn't sell to Black folk. I don't think that detracts from anybody being a leader of force in their neighborhood because they've done that. I just think that you're going to have to do a little bit more investigating if you're going to have sponsorships for your organization, because that's how these organizations got colonized in the first place. A lot of organizations got colonized because other folks put money in there to control what they do.
Yes.
Using money to control people is nothing new. So and let me just do a little housekeeping here. If you want to get in contact with the Hard Talk with Jakim, this is how you get in contact with me. Please don't. You can DM me, but I'm not really feeling all that DM on Facebook because Facebook gets a little choppy at sometimes. So that's BTHOMP, BTHOMP 6164 at gmail.com. Gmail.com. That's why we're seeking truths here. And you just saw that. We're seeking the truth here on a lot of stuff in our neighborhoods. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you, Dr. Zena, I don't know if you're in your line of work, do you do a lot of stuff about land use, about how counties still doing redlining and stuff like that in the law project?
Well, the law project, again, looks more at systemic problems. So the subject matter specifics, the special interest that we've gotten involved with hasn't included that. When I was in law school, and because I have a real estate background, comparative land use issues was some of the things I was looking at, but I haven't dealt with those issues. I know that through Louisiana United International, any form of discrimination, we provide assistance to our members. So do we have any specific cases on those topics, Ms. Belinda?
On land grabbing,
redlining, those sort of things.
Land grab, redlining.
Yeah, I know we're dealing with some I can't think off the top of my head with the specific cases in regards to land grabbing, but we definitely deal with it on a systemic problem because it is a problem here in Louisiana.
Yeah, I was approached one time by a group, and we were looking at dealing with the blacks who were losing family land in the South.
Yes.
But that fell apart. The coalition, wouldn't stick together so that we could have some real leverage and have a chance of challenging those practices that were involved. So yeah, we will tackle those issues. We're just not dealing with anything right now.
Well, I will tell you this, just to piggyback on that. You mentioned the word that we use in business all the time. In fact, when I was in New York, I had 3 businesses: entertainment, all that other stuff, and security. I'm big in security. I was doing that while I was still on the job, so I had to make extra money. There you go. Forgot about it. But I will tell you this: those issues are the issues that are continually being generational. With land, we just heard that in California that they getting ready to give back this beach that was taken from these black folks 100 and something years ago. So they just voted to do that. And if you don't know, if anybody in the audience doesn't know, if you go down to that great state in South Carolina called Myrtle Beach, that most of Myrtle Beach was owned by black folk. And it was taken away through land grabs, through the redlining, through hard taxes, reassessments, all that stuff that they use.
Yeah, in the intimate domain, right?
Eminent domain, sure, yes. Yeah. This is one of those tactics that they do to always to divert stuff from us and use the law. Again, like I started out, the law has been systematically used against black folks around the world. I talked to somebody in Zambia, and I did not know that so many of these South Afrikaners were in Zambia and owned so much land there. And it's the same law that they doing here is there. And that's what I want black folks to understand. What's going on in your neighborhoods the same.
And Jakim, I have to say this because, see, one thing that our people really have to understand is that, unity is powerful. And that's what, united is, in the word Louisiana, united is very significant, is to unite our people to come together on a powerful force, a strong united front for, a force to be reckoned with on a systemic basis. It's so hard when we have to stand alone and we don't have nowhere to turn and don't really know who to trust to talk to. So,
yes.
That was one of the reasons why we joined, forces with and network with other like-minded organizations that focus on the similar things that we focus on. But more important than that is that we network with various organizations. We partnership with other organizations so that we can build a systemic problem that, when Dr. Z wrote that powerful report to the United Nations in regards to, how we don't have no type of recourse when it comes to us being weaponized by the criminal justice system. No type of, and I want to say it like this, when you a black person and you go into the court and you got the judge and your lawyer that you done paid $20,000 to in cahoots, okay, and they in the back room making a deal saying ching ching while you out there in the court waiting for your lawyer to come back out and tell you something that you think you want to hear. And it's not what it's just not right. We done seen it happen over and over and over again. So what we're saying is that you cannot be alone in these situations. We have to unite. You have to get involved. You got to stop being selfish, thinking about me, myself, and I, me, my four. I'm going to get me a lawyer. I'm going to get me a lawyer, and how you know whether or not your lawyer is in cahoots with the judge, the DA, the prosecutor, the sheriff, the police, all of them working together against you.
That's right. Well, you had Sister Belinda, you made a good point. I'm glad you went there because I wanted to go there. I see Brother Morris has also chimed in about California. They voted to return Manhattan Beach. You're absolutely right, parts of it. And he said it's happening in his hometown of Charleston. Great hometown, Charleston. I can't stand half of them damn plantation type houses. Don't bring me to none of them nonsense because I ain't trying. Here in Delaware, let me just something funny for both Belinda and Zena. Let me tell you, we have a boat here, a ship. Mm-hmm. It's called the Calamar Nickel. And it's a ship that supposedly the Dutch came to Delaware, and it rides up and down our Christina River, and I guess goes to the Delaware River as well. And I was invited about 7 years ago to go on this ship. And listen, I fear basically nothing, except for the Almighty. Because I know exactly what's going on.
Right.
And when I was going on this ship, somebody said, "Oh man, that looked like a slave ship." And they love to parade this thing up and down the Christina River near the riverfront. They love to parade it. They love to have you join it because, they always want black folks to volunteer while everybody else is getting paid. And, I wasn't playing that. We don't play that. But one of the things that I said to somebody, I said, listen, I refuse to get on that slave ship. In fact, that ship represents the enslavement of not only black folk, but the enslavement of the Native Americans that were here before them. And they said, Jakim, you always start. Listen, I'm 6'5". I got to start trouble. If I don't start it, it won't get it done. But this is the type of tone that they have here in the Northeast, because Delaware is not in the South, but you would think that it was in the South because of some of the thinking. And don't get me wrong. A lot of great people are coming out, great thinkers are coming out the South, and has been. The problem is that you people think that they got something else, an agenda, and you're giving stock to people that don't. I want to talk about real quick, y'all, just a little bit for our family, just to understand this. What Sister Zena said earlier is important. What Sister Belinda said earlier is important. Some of you have gone and watched and followed advice from counselors that were internet counselors. No bona fides, no credentials. Mm-hmm. This is the same way you pick your lawyers, the same way. No, you don't pick your lawyers that way. You don't pick your plumbers that way. You don't pick your leaders in your community that way. Just because you see them on television, just because you see them on a streaming cast or something, pick them by what they do in the community when nobody else is there, when there's only 5 people at the rally, but yet they still showed up in the ring. That's a leader. Those people that willing to come into the ghetto. We just had 4 people shot in Wilmington on 10th and Pine, and one of the young ladies died. TT, I know I've seen TT before when I was riding the bus. And listen, and just for everybody to know, I do have a car, but my second public transportation. I'm from New York. That's how I roll. My second car is always public transportation. But she just died, and I give a big shout out to her family because we got these people from the north side going against west side, whatever that nonsense is. But you pick these people to be in Leg Hall in Delaware, Dover, to be Leg Hall and to represent you, and they have no connection to the community. And I'm going to stop right there. Y'all sisters take it from here.
Exactly. I've made some of the same point, but a lot of people think that getting justice is a gimmick. This is big business. One professor, renowned professor, he said we need to stop thinking of our courts as conflict resolution centers, and we need to start thinking of them, again, not so much as where you go to resolve a conflict. We need to think of them as power distribution centers. And there's a lot of power associated with who goes to jail, who goes to prison, and who doesn't, who wins the business mediation case and who doesn't, and
Who gets the contracts?
who gets the contracts and who doesn't, even whose kids go to foster care and who don't. Okay, and so we got to stop see, we've seen that scandal advocacy, and we see it's a big difference between having some pictures of a senator out with some teenage girl versus trying to say that some well-regarded judge and some well-regarded prosecutor railroading black people. It's a really big difference. And so you have people that they think that it's just you can just get a publicity stunt and they gonna get scared, and if we march down the street, they went through the 60s, they on to us. We're gonna have to do more than lock arms for them to give it up this time. And they've actually gone further than I ever thought that they were going to go. I thought that they would back off if they saw, when the cameras were rolling and the dogs was on us in the water hole. They didn't got to the point, even that is not enough. So that's why they go in and they think, oh, well, this person look like they got a big following. You got to look beyond, just whether they popular. What are they saying? What are their taxes? How are they received? People don't put as much diligence into picking their leaders as they would to get somebody to remodel their kitchen.
You're absolutely right, and that's a good point. And in fact, I'm going to call this one not the hard talk tonight. This is the box of harsh realities. Yeah. Today we are opening the box of harsh realities. And I see Willie Vargas talked about, real quick before I get to you, Belinda, he's talked about Senate Bill 3 and Senate Bill 6 here in Delaware is highly targeted towards Black and low-income communities, designed to disfranchise those communities. Yes, and those bills, some of those bills are gun law bills. And these gun laws, it's funny that last year, more Black owners of guns ever in the United States, more people were first-time buyers of buying guns and buying firearms that were Black or people of color. I like to say Black because POCs is for those that like to do that. I like to say Black because that's what I'm going to talk about. This is the box of harsh realities that we need to actually go through with that. And you're right. Thank you again, Willie, for that one. Belinda, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. We even have one of our members that is basically training people on how to be able to get their gun license and everything to become legal. So that's big. That's a movement all within itself. But I want to say this, Jakim, that, it's so important that, when you look around and you see that, we started this organization because we were fed up with a lot of the smoke screen of just downright fake leadership, false leadership. And, so it came out like a groan of the need to know, the need to be heard, the need to be educated, the need for people to be able to talk about, what they see happening, especially in their leadership when it comes to politics and tricks and, politicking and tricking and all that kind of stuff, them being paid, to, whatever. It just, It's got to the point where, you know, it was just a sad, sick situation where a lot of our younger people are just not going to fall for that type of okie doke. And then when you see organizations out here like Louisiana United International, you know, we could not be effective and successful as we are with the things that we have accomplished without the expertise of Dr. Zena and her you know, her firm that she's working with. You know, we bring it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we bring it all together and it become a very powerful, impactful, you know, movement. And that's what we're calling it, you know, because, you know, people are looking for this type of movement where we can actually bring about the necessary change that people need to see. But, you know, people are going to have to get involved. They're going to have to, you know, we're going to have to take that up another notch, you know, to another level, that people just can't sit back and wait and see what somebody else going to do. Right. You know, they need to get involved with powerful organizations like Louisiana United International and be a part of this work. And that's the reason why, even though we're based here in Louisiana, but we're focused on the whole entire country, you know, we're bringing everybody together, you know, so that we can be a force that would address these atrocities that we're facing, you know, because why? I'm going to ask you this question. Why are we in the 21st century? And you said it earlier, and we're still dealing with the same thing that we dealt with 400 years ago. Why?
Yeah. You know,
why is that?
You know, the why there is, there's so many answers to it. Before I get to you, Zena, there's so many answers to it. There's so many stuff to it. But let me just say this. I used to ask myself, I was raised Baptist and Muslim. So I used to ask myself, why, oh, why are so many of these Negroes thanking the Lord for white supremacy? And I used to say to myself, at 16, I was saying to myself, wow, why? When I went into the Army, the same thing when I went to the Army. As an Army veteran, I seen a lot of people, and now I hear they're trying to address the extremists in the Army. I've seen a lot of things that was not taken care of back in the 80s. I was in the Army in the 80s, so that shows I'm an old guy. So in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s, and now we're in the 2020s, and these things are not being addressed. Whether it be sexual abuse in the Army, let me just say this to everybody who's a military out there right now. If you're watching me and you've ever been in the military or you're in the military, our young sisters in the military are being abused. Yeah, I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm going to have some people on, a family member who actually was a lieutenant colonel. Going to talk about her sexual abuse later on. And I'm part of the domestic violence ambassadors here in Delaware because I think I've seen it. I used to train it.